Hi, my name is Jerry Leneve, and this is my informative speech for COMM101 00A online. IVYTECH Summer Semester 2009. Let's see. Have any of you ever used a computer before? If you have, you've probably used the internet, browsed the web, and you probably know about Firefox. It's an open source web browser that's developed by the Mozilla Corporation. Firefox is open source software, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. We'll be discussing what it is, the pros, and the cons. So, you use something that's open source probably every day without even knowing it. Whether it's a web browser or it's your cell phone. Cell phones have operating systems on them. Every electronic device pretty much does that's smart in any way, shape, or form other than radios, clocks, and such. So we're going to talk about what open source is. Open source is just a set of rules for developing and distributing software. There are all sorts of different licenses, such as there's the GPL, which is the General Public License. There's the MPL, which is the Mozilla Public License. There's also lots of, there's the Creative Commons, which is kind of open source, kind of not, but we won't be getting into that today. So, you can modify open source programs, you can distribute them anywhere you want. It's free, you'll never pay to download them or use them, so you can be at ease if you're going to share them with your friends. No one will slap a lawsuit on you. So now that we've talked about open source, I'll give you some examples and things that you probably use every day. Those are, other than Mozilla, if you've probably been on the internet, you've probably been to a website that's hosted on a Linux server. Linux is an open source operating system that's free to download and use, distribute, and modify, just like everything else. If that server wasn't on Linux, it was probably running Apache, which is an open source software system for displaying web pages on the internet. If you ever gotten an Apache error, I'm sure you have at some point in time, that's open source software as well. The benefits, obviously, it's free and doesn't cost you any money, and anybody can change it. So you don't have to wait on Microsoft or Adobe or Macromedia or whoever it is, software that you're using, to fix it if there's a problem with it. And also, there's a million people looking at it, so the chances in someone finding a bug is possibly greater than just a certain development team at a corporate office. Anyone can contribute, and it has a much more personal feel to it. Some of the downfalls of open source software are on the same side of the blade, I guess, as the good, being that since it's not a corporation that's developing the software, it's just a bunch of individuals. If that individual or individuals decide to work on a new project, or things in their life become busy and they don't work on it, they go to jail, anything like that, then they obviously aren't developing your software anymore. You don't have updates, you don't have support. Another bad part about open source software is the fact that there's a lot of inconsistency. If one person writes a patch and another guy writes a patch, and they both release them out there and say, hey, this is the fix for this, it might work for you and not the guy next to you, and vice versa. Another thing is hardware support for open source devices is not always developed. A lot of major corporations only develop for Windows. So the three major problem areas, especially in open source operating systems, are sound, video, and network connectivity. Sound cards, there are almost no support for many sound cards in the Linux operating system. Video, if you're playing video games or doing anything that's 3D, chances are not only the application that you're using doesn't work in Linux, but the drivers to make them work don't work either. And also, companies such as Linksys, they don't develop network drivers for Linux at all, so if you've got a Linksys card in your computer, then you're not going to be getting on the internet or sharing any files or data with anyone, because chances are you won't be able to get it working under Linux. Also, open source software isn't very friendly. It's not like Windows. It looks like Windows sometimes, but when it comes to, if you want to hit up a website and download iTunes or one of your favorite little programs, you can't just download one file, double click on it, hit next a couple times and call it done. Chances are you'll have to search all over the internet for dependencies, and you'll have to find fixes and workarounds specific to your computer or your environment. And your average everyday computer user either A, doesn't know how to do that, or B, they don't want to, because we want things to be simple, right? You just want to click on it and you want it to work. So those are the downfalls. You know, you can make the decision whether you think things are truly free or not. Is anything really free, or does it come with a price of a headache? You know, major corporations that use Linux are taking a gamble, being that they're basing their infrastructure off of something that's free, so they're saving money, which is a prospect in their eyes, but at the same time, they don't have the backing of a huge corporation. So that if something goes down for a bank, for example, money isn't money anymore. It's all on a hard drive. And if some bank's computer system fails and you don't have money in your bank account, it's their butt. So if they're using software developed by Microsoft or someone who's got a name behind them, chances are it makes them feel more safe. And in theory, it is more safe. But for tech-savvy companies that have a bunch of coders on hand, they can probably fix it themselves and save a bunch of money. So it's all up to you. Linus Torvalds, who's the creator of Linux, once said that software is like sex. It's better when it's free. And Bill Gates believes that free software and non-free software should exist in harmony because it promotes competition. And Eric Raymond believes that open source is the way to go, because the more people that are looking at the code, the better chance you have in seeing that there's a problem with it. And this is called the million eyes theory.